Hi everyone and welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we're going over OklaRoots' latest pattern. I'm OklaRoots, I wrote it. It's a pattern by me. Today, we're gonna go over this cute little pouch called the loot pouch. So the reason I call it the loot pouch is because, I'll show you, when I fold it down, it kind of looks like a little loot bag. I was thinking like Animal Crossing, like their little gold bag, you'll see. But this is a very, very easy beginner-friendly pouch. This pouch pretty much just consists of a front and a back, a lining and an exterior, and a zipper. And that's it. Now, we're gonna zhuzh it up because that's what we do over here. We zhuzh it up. I'm gonna show you how to do it with two different panels on the front and the back to create the front panel. You can use a lot of different materials with this. I would suggest quilt cotton. This is a really great quilt cotton bag. Because of the design, it still has structure. A lot of times with quilt cotton, we don't want to use it because we lose a lot of structure and it's kind of floppy. But because of the design and because of adding a little bit of interfacing, maybe a little bit of stabilizer on the bottom, you really don't lose that. And I'll show you that. So this is one version I've made so far. This is with nylon. We open up the zipper and then I use some water-resistant canvas on the inside, and you can see it's nice and big. But what you can do, which is really cute, is you can fold down the top. Give it a little zhuzh, make it look pretty, make it presentable. And now this is where like the loot came from. You know, it's like a cute little bag, and this is actually a really great snack bag, especially if you have kids who kind of mindlessly snack while they're maybe playing video games or something, and your typical snack bag just falls over because they're not paying attention to what they're doing as they're reaching their little hands in there. This is going to stay flat much easier. So like I said, this one here is made with the nylon. I made another one with quilt cotton, and I do really love it with quilt cotton. I really do. So you can see it is more loosey-goosey than like a nylon water-resistant canvas version, but it still has great structure, great shape. It doesn't lose anything really at all. And it's just a really fun pouch to make, honestly. It's really, really fun. So I will have a link down below for the pattern. It is available in Shop OklaRoots. This is a full written out pattern too. I know a lot of times we do just templates in a video. This is not that. This is a full written out pattern. The pattern does include printables, so you can print off the PDF file to make this. It is a template-based pattern, meaning this is not made out of rectangles. We are using a template to make this, so you do want to be able to print that and make sure you're printing it at 100% using Adobe Acrobat. There are also acrylic templates available for this if you'd like that. It is a set of 2, and it's for the larger exterior and lining, or also the half set if you want to just like do half of it like I've done. I've done the half in every single one of these. I actually haven't made one of these with just a main panel on the outside yet. I will tell you, when I was designing this pattern, I have a very unique zipper method right here where we actually only use half of a zipper tape, meaning you have your zipper tape and you pull it apart and you put one to the side, and we're only going to use half of it. I understand that not everybody's gonna love that. So in today's tutorial and in the pattern, I actually show you 3 different ways to do a zipper. My preferred method like this, but I'm also going to show you how to do a double tab zipper, think snack bags, and then also a single tab zipper that's using just a standard zipper with a turned off edge. Very, very simple thing we've done before. So I'm going to show you how to do all those things, like I said, in the tutorial today, also in the pattern. So if you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, shout outs, leave them down below. For those of you guys who are asking for written out patterns for my other patterns that are just templates, think the Anna mini wallet, things like that. Yes, those are in the works right now. So snack bag, boxy bag, Anna mini, curved clear bottom, all these patterns that we have out that are pretty much just template based with a video. I am working on writing a full out proper pattern for each one of those. So as those come available, I will let you guys know. Make sure you're following along on social media. I really share every step of the process over there. So definitely go check out Instagram and the stories every day. I'm pretty much talking about writing these patterns. All right, guys, let's get started. So for this pattern, you're going to need about a ½ yard of exterior material and a ½ yard of lining material. So for your exterior material, you can use your nylon, you can use wax canvas, you can use water-resistant canvas, you can use water-resistant canvas for the lining as well. There's a lot of different types of fun options you can use here. For the tutorial today, I'm going to stick to quilt cotton because it is just the most usable one out of all of them. For that, you could use 2 fat quarters if you want to mix it up and do the half and half like I am. So you could cut 2 of these half templates from one color, flip it over, cut 2 from another color, and then have the contrast, which is what I'm going to be doing in the tutorial today. However, you could also just use the lining template for the exterior as well, and then you just have 2 main outer panels. Same thing for the lining. We're going to use this template today to just make 2 main lining panels. So any material you're comfortable working with is going to be great here. If you are using a more structured material, like a thicker vinyl or anything like that, that's not going to work really well for turning the bag down. But if you don't want it to turn down, if you want it to stay upright, then a firmer material is fine. If you're using quilt cotton, I do suggest you use a woven interfacing, and I would suggest at least a yard of that. You also need a zipper and a zipper pull, and if you'd like some sort of a bag tag. I'll be showing you 3 different zipper options today, but I'm going to run through the first one, which is the preferred one that I use, which is a wraparound zipper, meaning it's going to be one part of a zipper tape wrapping around the entire top edge. However, because of that, we don't use both sides of our zipper tape. We're only going to use one side of the zipper tape. And this zipper tape I'm using right here is 22 inches long. I would say have it 20 inches or longer. The longer the zipper tape is, the easier it's going to be to work with in the end. You can always trim it down later, but you can't add more to it if it's too short. So I would say 20 inches or longer. This one right here is 20 inches long. I'm going to run through how to make the bag entirely using this zipper method, and after that I'll show you the 2 other zipper methods and which steps need to be changed for those. So here's all the other stuff I'll be using today. I'm using a Tex 45 weight thread for the top needle thread, and then in the bobbin I have a Gutermann thread from Joann's. My needle of choice is a Microtex 8012. My scissors are these Kai scissors. I have a 1 inch by 6 inch ruler, a air erasing, a marker, and a stiletto, a healthy supply of plastic clips, a little bit of double-sided tape for the bag tag, and a lighter to clean things up. So for the exterior, you can use the half panel or you can use the full panel. The templates for that are both included in the PDF file, and their acrylic templates are available as well. If you're going to be using the half template, you're going to want 2 cuts with the template facing this way, and then you're going to flip the template over and make 2 mirror cuts. So for example, this is the acrylic template, but it's the same for the paper template. You're going to have 2 cut like this, flip this over, and then have 2 cut in the mirrored version of it. All 4 of these are quilt cotton, and they all have the woven interfacing already attached to them. For the lining, I have 2 cuts using the full panel template. You could also use this cut if you'd want for the exterior of the bag. So you can use this for the lining or the exterior or both. Both of these are quilt cotton, and both of them are interfaced with woven interfacing as well. And then finally, I have just a small 2 inch by 2 inch cut for the zipper tab. You could also use a metal zipper tab if you'd like. Anything to keep the zipper from coming off in the end. I will be showing you how to sew this on, but if you guys have seen, I do prefer usually the metal tabs. But this does have a ending zipper that overhangs, so we do need a way to stop that. So this is just a piece of quilt cotton. I don't have any interfacing on this. You could add woven interfacing if you'd like. It can just get a little bulky. So the first thing I want to do is build my exterior panels, and since I'm using the half template, in order to do that, I'm just going to take 2 of my panels here, and I'm going to flip them right sides together, and then I'm going to grab my clips, and I'm going to clip along that long edge over here on the right, and I'm going to repeat this with my other 2 half exterior panels. So now I'm going to sew along both of these clipped edges at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. Alright, once you have those sewn together, we're going to press the seam allowance open. And I'm going to use this cute little tiny iron that has headlights on it, which I think is so funny. Why do you got lights on an iron? I don't know, but it's cute. So I'm just going to give it a good press on the back first, and then flip it over, and then give it a good press on the front as well. And I'm going to do this for both of my main panels. Remember, if you're just using the single pattern piece instead of the half pattern piece, then you're not doing this. Alright, once those are pressed, I'm going to go to the sewing machine. I'm going to top stitch on both sides of that seam at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance with the seam pressed open. This is just going to keep everything nice and flat. So now, whichever design you're using, you should be at the same spot now. This is now essentially the large main panel, and if you want to use your template to check that it's the right size, go ahead and do that. Now we're going to add our bag tag, and since I did the split version, I like to add it off to the side. You could definitely add it in the center, whichever version you're using. My personal preference for the placement is 3 inches down from the top edge, and then a 1/4 inch to the right of that seam that's in the center. Just like that. That's where I like to put my bag tag. You can put it wherever you'd like. To help keep it there, I'm going to use some double-sided tape on the back of it to hold it in place. And now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and just top stitch along all 4 edges of my bag tag at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, these next steps are going to go specifically with the half zip long process that I'm doing for the zipper. If you're doing a different type of zipper installation, you're not going to do this. This is just for using that long zipper tape. So I'm going to take my front panel on the right and my back panel on the left, and I'm going to connect them right here along this middle seam between them. So I'm going to flip these together, right sides together, grab my clips, and I'm going to clip along this edge. Remember, my front panel is facing down and my back panel is facing up. And now I'm going to sew along this clipped edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. Once you have that sewn, open up your panels and press open that seam allowance. And I'm going to press it with an iron again, but however you pressed open your other seams, if you did that, just get this nice and pressed open. It's going to make everything easier later if you do this. Okay, so this is what it should look like. Again, the front panel's on the right, back panel's on the left. Now I'm going to top stitch right over that seam I just made at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on both sides. All right, so take your exterior panel and put it to the side. Now grab your 2 lining panels, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to just connect them along one of their side seams. So flip them right sides together, and then once again I'm going to work over here on the right side and clip along that side seam. And now I'm going to sew along this side edge. At the top, I'm going to start at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. As I go down further, I'm going to increase it to a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So 3/8 of an inch at the top, 1/2 of an inch at the bottom. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. All right, once again, we're going to open this up and press this seam open. If you'd like to trim it down a little bit, just trim down the width of this seam since it is so big on the bottom. You can do that. I haven't had a problem leaving it untrimmed, but that's just personal preference. If you're using a thicker material, you might want to trim it down. Quilt cotton, however, you can leave it. Let's just press that seam open. Let's flip it over and press it from the front as well. And just like we did on the exterior, you can top stitch along both sides of the seam. This is optional because it is lining, so it's okay if it's not top stitched, but I'm going to do it just to make it easier to remember. Top stitch on both sides. So now let's work on installing the zipper. So remember, this zipper tape is 22 inches long and it's just 1/2 of a zipper tape. Don't install a pull or anything yet. First thing we want to do is find the midpoint. So I'm just going to fold this in half, and then with it folded in half, I'm going to pinch over here on the fold, which is going to be my midpoint. And I like to use scissors for this. I'm just going to cut a teeny tiny little snip right off that corner fold. This is going to give me a little triangle that's going to be easy for me to see everywhere. However, with zipper tape, it does fray, so you'll want to grab a lighter and you'll want to just melt down that midpoint mark. You could also just mark it with a pen if you're more comfortable doing that. So now take your exterior main panel and lay it right side up, and then take your zipper tape and you're going to lay your zipper tape right side down so that the fabric edge of the tape is going to line up with the raw edge of your fabric material. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to clip the midpoint mark on your zipper tape to that midpoint between the 2 front panels. So just like that. And we're going to work on this one side at a time. It's just easiest that way. So we're going to start with the right side. Angle your zipper tape so that it runs right along the top edge here. Grab a ruler, and I'm going to measure in 1/2 of an inch from the right edge of my front panel. And I'm just going to mark on my fabric where that 1/2 of an inch is. And then I'm going to continue clipping along my zipper tape along the top edge of the right side. So this is my front panel. And then I'm going to transfer that 1/2 inch mark to the back of my zipper tape. This way I can see what I'm doing. So this is what we're doing. We don't want the zipper tape to extend all the way off and be sewn into the seam over here on the side. That's not going to help us. So what we actually want is we want the zipper tape to veer down, just like that, not up. We want it to veer down away from the raw edge as we're sewing. So by the time we get to this 1/2 inch mark over here, the zipper tape should no longer be in this top seam. So I like to just kind of push it like that so I don't forget. So that's why we do the markings everywhere, so that we know like, oh, we're getting close to it, pull it out of the seam. We don't want it to be in the seam at this 1/2 inch mark. So I'm going to start at the center here, and I'm going to baste this on at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I do like to backstitch because I don't want this to pull up, but we're not doing it all in one go. We're just going to start at the midpoint mark, and at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, just sew along this top edge, pulling the end of the zipper tape down towards the middle of your fabric. And so it's out of the way by the time you get to that 1/2 inch mark. Okay, so this is the part that might get some of you guys. First, let's mark our 1/2 inch over here on the left side, because we're going to work on the left side, the back panel now. So once again, mark a 1/2 inch on that top over there. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna twist this zipper up just like that. And you'll notice when you do that, you get a bump here, just like little bump right in the center. And you don't want to try to flatten that out. Instead, we're going to fold it down. So make sure you refer to the pattern for this. I do have some close-up shots, but I'll also try to give you a close-up shot here. So first what I'm going to do is just work on getting my zipper tucked in as well as I can and clip to the top just a little bit. And then where this bump is here, I'm just going to kind of fold it over. So we're going to just go right at the edge and fold the zipper tape over. So it's like a, not a 45-degree fold, but it is folded over. It's neatly folded over. It's not just squished in there. It is neatly folded down on itself. Again, look at the pattern. I do have close-ups there. And then I'm going to transfer my 1/2 inch mark to the back of my zipper tape. And this time I'm going to start over here on the end. So I'm going to pull the zipper tape once again down. Remember, my zipper tape is right side down. The teeth are on the bottom. And I'm going to pull the end down towards the middle of my fabric so that it's just outside of that 1/2 inch mark. And then it's veering up towards the top of the panel. And then I'm going to base this on at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. And I am going to go over that fold. So you want to make sure you pin down that fold. If you need a back stitch over it while you're basting, that's perfectly fine. All right, once you have that basted down to the exterior panel, you're going to grab your lining panel and you're going to lay this right side down. So it's right sides together with the exterior, and it's on the back of your zipper. And you're going to just line up the top edges. Now, when you're at these top 2 corners here, make sure you pull that zipper tape down. You don't want this to sneak up when you're sewing. So pull it down. If you need to, you can actually pull it down to the side like this and clip the edge on the side just to make sure you don't accidentally sew over it. So I'm going to do that on both sides. There's a lot to remember. So I'm going to line up the corners and I'm going to line up the midpoints because it is important that your midpoints are lined up here. It needs to be lined up. All right, once you have this clipped in place, we're going to sew along the entire top edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. If that's a little too hard with your zipper, you can definitely use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Either way is fine. But we're going to make sure we backstitch at the beginning and the end. And once again, keep the ends of your zipper tape out of the way. They should not be involved in those corners on the top left and right. Once you have it sewn along the zipper, you're going to flip these up and you're going to turn them wrong sides together. And do your best to line up the box corners to make sure you get the top edge nice and straight. So I look at the bottom first and then I work my way up towards where the zipper is. And you should notice that your zipper tape kind of pulls up and away. It's supposed to. So make sure you straighten out the seam beneath it. And then if you're using quilt cotton, you can go ahead and just press along this top seam by the zipper to get it nice and flat. All right, once you have this pressed, we're gonna just top stitch along this top edge right below the zipper at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Use a zipper foot for this. I do go all the way from end to end. If you prefer, you can just start at 1/2 inch and end 1/2 inch in. That allows you to spread the seam open later. I find that it's not that big of a deal in the end, but I'm gonna just top stitch along the entire top edge at an 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, once you have that top stitch on the top, you're gonna flip these panels away from each other so that you have wrong sides up. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna have these 2 side edges over here on the left and the right. You're gonna flip the panels so the material is right sides together, but it's exterior against exterior and lining against lining, because what we're gonna do now is close up this other side edge, just like we did with any other zip pouch. So the first thing you wanna do is line up the seam on the side, and I like to push the seam towards the lining side. If you didn't top stitch all the way off the edge, you should be able to press the seam open here and clip it together with the seam open, but always start there at that seam first and push it towards the lining, and then line up the sides of the lining panel and clip. Again, we're just worried about the side panel for now, so clip along that side, and then looking over at the exterior side, pull these up, line up those box corners, and once again clip along the side. Don't worry about the 2 bottoms right now. We'll address those in just a moment. Let's just focus on the side. Okay, now I'm going to flip this over so I can show you how I'm going to sew this. This is the exterior panel. So starting on the bottom here of the box corner of the exterior panel, I'm going to sew up at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning. Get as close as you can over here to the zipper. Make sure you don't accidentally sew over your zipper tape, so make sure those little bits that are overhanging stay tucked in. And you want to stay at about a 3/8 inch seam allowance, but if right here is too bulky and you can only go 1/4 of an inch in, that's fine. Continue on the lining at a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then as you go down towards the boxed edge of the lining, increase to a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then make sure you backstitch at the bottom here. All right, so now we have both sides sewn. You can see one side, we do have it pressed open on the seam and it is top stitched. The other side, you don't have to press it open. If you want to, you can, but it's really not required. I'm gonna finger press it open when I box them, but other than that, you can keep it the way it is. So now I'm gonna work on the bottom of the main exterior panel, and so I'm just gonna clip along this bottom edge here, and I'm gonna sew along this bottom panel at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. So now let's look at the bottom of the lining panel, and grab yourself a ruler, and let's measure and mark 4 inches centered on the bottom of your lining panel, and clip along this bottom edge. And now we're gonna sew along this bottom edge at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Once you get to these marks, make sure you don't sew between them. So starting at the box corner over here, make sure you backstitch, stop at the mark, backstitch at the mark, jump over the opening. Next mark, continue sewing. Make sure you backstitch again at the beginning and the end. So now let's work on boxing the corners. So starting with the exterior, we're going to just pull along the corners so that the seams come together, and use your fingers to press open the seams. And then make sure you line up where they match up in the middle there. And then just clip along this edge. Do the same thing on the other side. Just press open that bottom seam. One side seam is probably already pressed open if you top stitched it like I did. But if you did a different zipper method, then you might not have the side seam pressed open. So just make sure you press open at the seam. I don't think it's a big deal if the rest of it's not pressed open, but personal preference. All right, so now I'm gonna go to the sewing machine and I'm gonna sew along both of these clipped edges at a 3/8 inch seam allowance, backstitching at the beginning and the end. If you're using a thicker material, make sure you do a second row of stitching just a little bit closer to the raw edge. That's just gonna make sure that those threads don't get shown in the end. Once you have the exterior box, let's work on the lining. So we're just gonna once again pull on those corners and get our seams to line up exactly, and use clips to hold these together, right sides together. And if you ever have a hard time straightening out this edge over here, you just pull further down on the material, just like that, and that'll help you box it. All right, now you can go sew along these clipped edges at either a 1/2 inch or a 3/8 inch seam allowance. A 1/2 inch seam allowance is just gonna help prevent any bulk in there, but we've already done a lot of 1/2 inch seam allowances elsewhere. So 3/8 of an inch is fine as well, whichever one you prefer. I'm gonna stick with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. All right, so close to being done. Let's pull the bag out through that hole in the lining, so it's right side out. We'll check that your zipper tape didn't get stuck in a seam. If it did and your zipper tape is really long and it's just the end of it, you can cut it out gently and just like seam rip right at that spot and re-sew it. You don't have to like redo the whole bag or anything. All right, so I'm gonna push my hands in to poke out the exterior box corners, and then I'm going to pull on the inside of that hole in the lining so that I'm tucking down the raw edges of my material, and I just have a nice fold of fabric here. So we're just going to try to close up this hole now. So I'm going to use clips to keep it closed. And I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to top stitch right along this top edge where the opening is at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. All right, once you have that closed up, just push your lining into your bag. How stinking cute is this little guy? So this is what we have right now. We still don't have a zipper pull on here, but that's what we're doing next. But look how stinking cute that is. And then when you fold it down, this is what it looks like. So sweet. Okay, so now we want to add our zipper pull. So pinch over here on the side, find that side seam here, pinch there so you make sure you have the middle of your zipper. Sometimes your zipper tape is going to shift a little bit, so if you find that once you get to the ends over here, they don't meet up, that's okay. That's why we make it longer than necessary. Just get the top of the front and the back lined up to the best of your ability, and then work your way along the zipper tape. And if you see one side is longer than the other, then just trim it down. That's what I'm going to do. You want to install it properly. So once you have them trimmed so that they meet up properly, grab your zipper pull and just insert your zipper pull onto your zipper tape, and then just pull your zipper on just like that, and you should see that it meets up perfectly over here. Zipper coils overhang just a tidbit, but it shouldn't be totally off. There shouldn't be a big gap over here where it's really off. How cute is that? Okay, now grab your zipper tab and lay it right side up and then grab your zipper tape and lay it right side up and center it so that the very edge, the far edge of the zipper tape is centered on the very far right edge of your zipper tab. Both of them are right side up. And then just clip these together. And let's sew along this clipped edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So once you have it sewn on, you're gonna flip your zipper tab up and away and straighten it out. You can press down that fold from the seam you just made. And then we're gonna work on the top edge here, and we're gonna wrap it around the zipper tape and fold it in so it's the same width as the zipper tape. So then use your iron to press this down. If you're using material you can't iron, you can definitely use double-sided tape here. Let's do the same thing on the bottom edge over here. So just wrap it around that zipper tape and then press it down with your iron so it's nice and folded over. Here we go. And then the very right side over here with the raw edge, we're gonna fold that in. And you can fold that in about 3/8 of an inch, or you can fold it in so it almost meets the raw edge of the zipper, and then press that with an iron. And then once you have it folded in once, you're gonna fold it in again to wrap around the top of your zipper, just like that. And then I'm gonna grab a couple clips to just hold that in place. So you can see it folds over farther on the front than it does on the back. That's perfectly fine. So with the zipper right side up, we're gonna top stitch right along this folded edge here. If you wanna top stitch around the entire zipper tab, you can, but you could just top stitch along the inner folded edge at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. And there you go, your loop pouch is now done. You can open it all the way, just like this. You can fold it down if you'd like, which is fun. You could definitely also use pull fabric or food safe fabric for the interior if you want to make this into a standing snack pouch. I totally forgot to show you the foam insert, which I'm sorry. Let's see, I might do that on one of the other ones, but you can also add a foam insert before you close up the lining to have a more firm bottom. It is explained in the pattern, I just forgot to do it in this tutorial, but this is the zipper method that I came up with for it. Let's go over a couple other zipper options though. All right, so I have another bag I'm working on over here. This one is actually entirely water resistant canvas, exterior and lining. But for this zipper, this is gonna be one that a lot of you guys are more familiar with. It's the same type of zipper we use on the snack bag. So this zipper tape here is cut to 6 3/4 of an inch long. I have a zipper pull, and then for my zipper tab, I have a 4" by 2" cut of water resistant canvas, and I'll be applying that to both ends of my zipper. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do is fold your zipper tab in half, long sides together, wrong sides together. And if you're using quilt cotton, you might want to use an iron to press that. But then you're going to fold the long raw edges up, wrong sides together to meet that middle fold you just made. So do this for both long edges. You can set that to the side for just a moment. Grab your zipper tape and make sure you attach your zipper pull. Now this is a very small zipper, so the opening on this is pretty tiny. Okay, once you have the zipper installed, you're gonna take one end of your zipper tape and you're going to just fold the zipper tab over that end of your zipper tape. Use some clips to hold it in place. And then you can actually flip the other end of your zipper tape up into your little zipper tab hot dog over here, hot dog bun I guess, and then grab some clips and clip that end in place as well. And now we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're just going to top stitch right along this bottom folded edge at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to hold it all down to the zipper. Alright, once you have that attached, now you can grab some scissors and you can just trim the zipper tab down so it's the same width as your zipper tape. And this will also separate it. Just be careful here while you do that. So now you should have your zipper tape, which is about 6 3/4 of an inch long. So once you have your exterior panels made, you're gonna take your front main panel, and on your zipper tape, go ahead and find the middle. So I'm just gonna fold this in half. It's easier to fold this way. I'm just gonna fold this in half. And once again, I'm gonna use scissors to mark the middle. And if you did use scissors, don't forget you need to melt down those little clips you made so they don't fray. And then take your zipper tape and lay it right side down, and when the zipper closes, it's going to be closing towards the left. So closing towards the left, right side down. Match up the midpoint mark on your zipper tape with the midpoint of your front main panel, and then clip together at the middle, and then continue clipping along the entire edge. So the zipper should not reach all the way towards the ends. Should not reach all the way towards the sides or on the left and right. So now we're gonna take this to the sewing machine and we're gonna baste along this top clipped edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So once you have that basted on, grab one of your lining panels and you're gonna lay your lining panel right side down. So the right side of the lining panel goes to the back of the zipper tape, and match it up along the top edge of your exterior main panel. And clip these right sides together. And now let's go to the sewing machine and we're gonna sew along this top clipped edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. So once you have these sewn together, you're gonna flip the lining and the exterior so they are wrong sides together. So I like to match up the boxed corners first to make sure everything is straight, and then just pull on this top zipper here. And if you're using material that you can use an iron on, go ahead and grab an iron and press along this top edge here. But once you have that pressed down, we're gonna take this to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch along this top folded edge, but only where the zipper tape is. We're not gonna top stitch along the edges. We're just gonna top stitch on the zipper tape. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. All right, so once you have the zipper attached to one side, we're gonna repeat that with the other side. So grab your back main panel and lay it right side up, and then take your zipper and lay it right side down. And then line up the midpoint mark on your zipper tape with the midpoint on your back panel. And grab some clips and clip those together. And then clip along this entire top edge. And now we're gonna take this to the sewing machine and we're going to baste along this top edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once you have that basted on, grab your remaining lining panel and lay it right side down along the back of your zipper tape. And then line up the top edges together and clip these together. And now let's sew along this clipped edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. All right, now take your lining panel and fold it up. And take the exterior panel and fold it away from the zipper as well. Try to get that top seam nice and straight. Now we're gonna go to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch right along this top edge, but only where the zipper tape is. So again, we're not top stitching all the way off the edge, only where the zipper tabs start and stop, and make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. Now move your zipper to the center of the zipper tape, and then grab your exterior panels, pull them right sides together, grab your lining panels and pull them right sides together. And we are specifically focusing on sides right now. So first things first, match up the seam between them. And I like to push the seam allowance down towards the lining and clip there. So do this on both sides. Don't be afraid to push that zipper tab and fold it how you need it. And then I'm going to go over here and clip the corners together on the lining and the exterior. And then clip along the entire sides. So now once you have these clipped, we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and starting on the lining side, you're going to start at a 1/2 inch seam allowance down here on the bottom where the box corner is. And then you're going to sew up to the center, decreasing it to a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Once you get to the zipper tab, you should definitely be at a 3/8 inch seam allowance or as close as you can get to the zipper tab. If you can't get there with a 3/8 inch, you have to use a 1/4 inch, that's fine. But then you're going to continue along the exterior at a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. Do this for both sides. All right, once you have the sides sewn down, you can continue on by closing the bottoms and boxing it just like we did with the 1/2 zip, long zip option. So you can refer back to that. I will finish this off camera. And then finally, the third zipper option is going to be one where we do still have a zipper tab along the end. It holds off the side, but instead of just using half the zipper tape, we're gonna use a full zipper, and we're going to angle off the start and stop. So this is another really popular way to do zippers. So my zipper tape is 10 inches long. You can definitely do longer. Honestly, I probably should have cut it more closer to 12 inches long. The longer the better, because you can cut it down, but I'm gonna work with what I got. Okay, so the first thing I wanna do is measure 3/4 of an inch down from the open edge. So I'm gonna install my zipper on the bottom here, and this is 3/4 of an inch down from there. And then I'm gonna install my zipper. Okay, so you have your zipper installed, you have the closed end over here on the right, and then on the left side here, you have those 2 marks made towards the open end that are 3/4 of an inch away. What we're gonna do now is we're going to open up the open end of our zipper tape. I'm gonna grab some clips, and right at that 3/4 of an inch mark, we're going to fold the zipper tape back on itself, wrong sides together, and we're just gonna let the coils go off towards the side. So this is just gonna pull the coils away from the center of the zipper. Do this on both sides, folding the zipper behind itself. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're just going to baste right along the edges to hold those folds down, baste at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once you have those basted down, grab your lighter and just melt down all the raw edges of your zipper so we don't have to worry about it fraying. And now grab your exterior front main panel. We're going to measure 1/2 of an inch from the top left corner. So use your ruler and mark 1/2 of an inch from the top left corner. And then also mark 1/2 of an inch from the top right corner. And now take your zipper and lay it right side down, and the opened end is going to be on the left. And you're going to match up the top curved edge with that 1/2 inch mark and clip the zipper in place. So again, the curved edge matches up with the 1/2 inch mark, and then continue clipping the zipper to the top edge of your front main panel. And then once you get over to the 1/2 inch mark on the right side here, you're gonna wanna veer your zipper down. So when we're sewing this, we don't want the zipper tape to go all the way off the edge. This is similar to the first zipper method we did. So we're gonna veer it down so that it's not in the seam once we get to that 1/2 inch seam allowance. So we're gonna go to the sewing machine now and just baste this down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So once you have the zipper basted in place, grab your lining panel and lay it right side down so it's right sides together with the exterior panel. And then line it up with the top edge of your exterior panel and use clips to clip these together. And you can move the zipper pull out of the way while you're sewing, and then also make sure that this end over here stays tucked out of the way. You don't want it in the seam past that 1/2 inch mark on the right side. And now we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to sew along this top edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. All right, once you have that sewn in place, you're going to flip the lining. So the lining and the exterior are now wrong sides together. And I like to line them up on their boxed bottoms to get the seam nice and straight by the zipper. And then if you're using quilt cotton, you can use an iron here to press along this top edge. Otherwise, just finger press it the best you can. And now let's top stitch along this top edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I am going to top stitch along the entire top edge, but if you wanted to just do where the zipper is, that's fine too. Honestly, I don't think it really matters. But we're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance along the top edge. Now grab your back exterior panel and grab a ruler and once again mark 1/2 of an inch in from both top corners along the top edge of your exterior panel. And then take your zipper and lay it right side down, and on the top right edge of your back panel, line up the curved edge of your zipper tape so that it meets it, and then line up the edge of your zipper tape with the top edge of the material. Once you have the side lined up, just continue clipping along this top edge until you get to the other 1/2 inch mark. And at that mark, make sure you veer your zipper tape down so that it is not in the seam by the time you get to that 1/2 inch mark. So it's veered down towards the bottom of your material. So we're gonna take this to the sewing machine and we're gonna baste along this top edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, once you have that basted in place, grab the last lining panel and we're going to lay this lining panel right side down on the back side of the zipper and match it up with the back main exterior panel. And then making sure to keep that zipper out of the side seam, sew along this top edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. All right, now let's flip the lining and exterior panels wrong sides together. And once again, match up the bottom edges first, and then you can kind of pull along the zipper. Make sure the zipper's closed, and that will help you straighten out the seam by the zipper tape. Now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch right along the top edge by the zipper tape at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, once you have these sewn together, you're going to pull the exterior and the linings right sides together, and you're going to clip along the sides. And you're going to sew these just like we did with the double tab zipper option. It was the second one we showed. I'll put a timestamp here so you can go back to it. And you're gonna finish up this bag just like we did with the first option. And the zipper tab in the end will be added just like the first option. So I'll have timestamps for all those and you can follow along with that. And at the very end, I'm gonna show you what all three of these different options look like. Okay, so I just want to show you how to insert this foam part. The measurements for this are in the pattern. You would do this right before you close up the lining. So for this bag here, I just pulled out everything and I have the hole in my lining still, and so I'm going to take my foam insert and I'm just going to tuck it in through that hole. And then I'm just going to push it down. Now, if you want to add some tape to the bottom of your foam so it doesn't move around, that's fine. However, once you have stuff in the bag and once the bag is done, I find that the foam piece does not move around. But if you just want to make sure, you know, especially if you throw it in a washing machine or something, you can definitely add some tape to the bottom of your foam to keep it in there. This will just provide a nice firm base. So that way when you tuck in your lining, it has just a little bit more structure. It's not necessary, but it is nice to have a little bit more structure, especially if you're going to be putting anything delicate in this bag, or even if you're going to be using it as a snack bag and you want to make sure it stays upright and doesn't fall over once it's opened up. You know what I mean? But the foam piece is completely optional. So you can also use Decovil Heavy, Decovil Light, anything else you'd like that has just a bit of structure to it. All right, so like I said, I'm going to show you the other two pouches. First, let's go over the one we made, the full one that we made with the quilt cotton. Okay, this is using the zipper design that I made for the pattern. How stinking cute is this? I like to make it super scrappy. I really do. I like to use different material for everything. I mean, I should have used a different material for all 4 of the exterior panels. I love it so much. It's so cute. Okay, and so then here's the double zip one. So this is the one that's like a snack bag where we have 2 zipper tabs on the end. So this does mean that it has a smaller opening versus this one, right? It has a smaller opening, but you can still fold it down. Now, I am using stiffer material here. I'm using a water-resistant canvas, so that alone is going to mean it requires a little bit more work to fold it down. However, you're still gonna get that cute little loot design. So this is another option. Honestly, it's not my favorite option because I do like having as much open space as possible on the zipper, but for those of you guys who are really comfortable with the double tabs, you can definitely still do that. And then finally, we have the single tab option. Actually used piece of metal hardware for this, so this is just a zipper end. I love these. You don't have to sew anything down. You literally just glue it, screw it, and you're done. And you can open up this one, and this is going to open and fold just like my zipper method. So if this is something you're more comfortable with the zipper tape kind of going off the sides like that, then this is another option. Any 3 ways you make it, they're all so stinking cute, and they're so much fun to make. I've made like 10 of these, and honestly, I could just keep making them. I want to make another one with wax canvas. I think that would look really, really cute. I need to make another one where I just use the regular main panel on the exterior instead of these half panels, but I just love the way that this looks so much. Like I said, you could put some foam on the bottom if you'd like. You could put some Decovil Heavy, Peltex, any sort of firm, and this one has foam on it. I don't adhere it in any way, and I have no problem with it moving around. However, especially if you're using quilt cotton and you're gonna throw this in the washing machine, you might wanna have some way to adhere it to the bottom of the bag. But honestly, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. So I hope you love making the loot pouch as much as I do, because I really, really love making these. If you make these and you share it on social media, please make sure you tag me. I'm at OklaRoots on everything: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, all those things. If you are not on social media and you make this and you want to share it with me, you can send me an email. I'm jessica@oklaroots.com. I love to see what you guys are making. I love to see how you guys are inspired by this. I've actually shown this to Patreon, and they had a lot of really fun ideas of different ways to use this. Somebody was saying that like they would try to put it like a little strap thing on it so that they could use it for dog training, so they could maybe adhere, like put it on their belt or something like that. I love it. I'm personally, I don't know if you've seen the videos, but I have one here that I've been using lately for all my clips. I replaced my little wicker basket because it's starting to fall apart with this one, and it's a perfect little clip bag. So lots of fun ways to use this, and it's just really stinking cute and fun to make. So I hope you enjoyed sewing with me today. Have a fantastic rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys.